Hey everyone, Angelo BehindTheVault.net. Today we're going to talk about how to properly divide the family assets in the event of a separation. Let's go behind the vault. Okay, so here we go. Now, if you didn't know, in North America, 70% of relationships break down. So whether it's a common law or a marriage, it ends up in some sort of a split to figure out what the next steps are. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how to divide the family assets. What's the financial side? Now, if there are children involved, there are different calculators for that. Today, I really wanted to focus on how do I divide the assets. Now, the reason I'm bringing this video to you today is over the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've had quite a number of people ask me this question. They said, okay, listen, my spouse and I are breaking up. How do we go about doing this? Do I need a lawyer? Should we get a mediator? Okay, so here's the first tip that I can give you when it comes to a marriage or a relationship breakdown. Number one, first and foremost, do whatever you can to keep the lawyers out of it, because the lawyers are there to rack up billable hours. Yeah, they're gonna help you. They're gonna walk you through and give you the information that maybe you don't know, but they are going to drag it out. Most lawyers, not all of course, but most lawyers, their job is to make money. And when it comes to divorce, it's a very lucrative business. The more you can keep lawyers out of it, the better it's going to be for you and for your ex-partner and for your children if there are children involved. Trust me on this one. I know from experience. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about dividing the net family assets and what you need to look for, because lawyers will come to me from time to time and say, hey, how do I do all this math? I don't really understand it. And then people will come to me and say, listen, we've got all these assets and we've got some debt, and how do we figure this all out? It's super simple. But what you need to manage is you need to manage how each thing is taxed, because that's where the tricky part of the calculation comes into play. So let's use an example. Let's say there's a family home. And I don't know, let's say the home is worth $1 million and you owe $500 on it. Let's say there's a cottage. Okay, and let's say the cottage is worth $500,000 and it's paid. Let's say one partner have some RSPs to the tune of $60,000. And let's say there's a TFSA, and let's say that's $80,000. Let's say there's a stock portfolio, that's $20,000. Let's say there's a car that's on a lease. Let's say this person has a pension. So maybe they are a nurse, a firefighter, a police officer, a paramedic, and they've got a defined benefit pension. And let's say the value of their pension is, I don't know, $600,000. Now let's say the person on the other side, let's say they have a business. So they have a business, and that business is valued at $600,000. There's no debt against the business. Let's say they have a small TFSA of $20,000. Let's say they have 0 in RSPs because they have a corporation and that's their RSP. They have a car that they bought outright, and the value of that car is $15,000. Now, there's also going to be the contents in the house and the contents in the cottage. All right, so now what happens is let's look at what the value of this sort of family has together. So here we have $760,000 on this side, plus $1.5 million on this side between the house and the cottage. And then let's say on this side we have $15,000, $35,000, $635,000 of value. So how do we put this all together? Now there's also $500,000 of debt, okay, that they own together. So I'll put a minus sign over there. And let's say there's no, make it simple. There's no credit card debt, there's no student loan, there's no line of credit, there's nothing. This is their financial picture. So now let's add it up. Now I did change the value of the car to 20,000, giving this person's net worth 640, just to make the numbers a little simpler. Okay, so here we have 760,000. Here we have $1 million of equity because it's 1.5 minus the $500,000 mortgage. And here we have 640,000. So 640 plus 760 is 1.4 million, plus 1 million from the house, 2.4 million. Once this exercise is done, each person is going to walk away with $1.2 million. All right, so I've taken a picture of this so I can erase it and do some more calculations for you. We're going to include it in the description below if you want to look at it as a reference. Okay, so let's get rid of this. And we know the magic number is 1.2 million. Okay, so let's say person over here who's already got 760,000, and this person over here has 640,000. Let's say this person wants to stay in the family home. So 1.5 mil minus the $500,000 of debt. Okay. And this person doesn't care about the cottage. They're like, sell it. I don't care. Okay. So we sell the cottage. And we get $500,000 for it. Now there's going to be real estate fees of 5%. There's going to be land transfer tax. There's going to be moving costs. There's going to be lawyer fees. So let's just say for easy numbers, that's all 10%. So let's say another 50,000 comes off that for all the fees to sell the cottage. And we're now down to 450. And here's the problem. There's going to be capital gain tax on that. And each person is going to take on their share of that capital gain. So let's say on 500,000, let's say the cottage was purchased for 200,000. So now what's happening is each person is going to have a capital gain of 150K. Only half of it's taxable, 75K each. So this person over here is going to pay tax on 75. This person over here is going to pay tax on 75. Now, what happens if one person's at a higher tax bracket than the other? Well, just put it all back together and then split it. So here's what I mean. Let's say this person over here is at a tax bracket where the tax is 25 grand, and this person over here is at a tax bracket that it's 15 grand. Okay? So this person walks away with 40. That's how much tax is paid from the 450 that's left over. So the couple now is going to split $410,000. So did you see that extra step I put in there? Figuring out the tax and equalizing it afterwards? It's really not fair that one person has to pay more tax than the other person because their income is higher, right? When it comes to, if these people had kids, right? When it comes to calculating support, alimony or child support, there's going to be an imbalance because one person makes more than the other, and that's okay. But when it comes to the division of assets, right, you're kind of in it together. So if you're the primary income earner or if you're the higher income earner, just be aware of this extra step. You don't want to get in a situation where you have to pay additional tax without bringing it back into the calculation, okay? So now they're gonna split 410 each, which means this person's gonna get 205 and this person's gonna get 205. And the house is $1 million over here, sorry. So this is 205K. All right, now let's take a look at what the calculation looks like. Okay, so sorry, this person's getting the house, so the equity in the house is 500. the house is worth $1 million with a $500,000 mortgage. So you know what I'll do is I'll put a little house over here to indicate who gets the family home. And then there's the extra 205 over here. So now after the sale of the cottage, here's what we're looking at. The person on the left has their 760 plus the 205 from the proceeds of the cottage. The person on the right has 640, which was theirs originally, 500 because they've got the family home, and 205 from the proceeds of the cottage. All right, so the math works like this now. This is 965,000, and this is 1.345 million. Now, as we know, there's going to be an equalization payment this way, right? Okay, but the magic number is no longer 1.2. The reason why the number is not 1.2 million is because they had to pay some fees and some tax on the sale of the cottage. So there definitely needs to be an equalization payment. How are we going to calculate that? Well, let's add it up. So 1.345 plus 965 gives us 0, carry the 1, 1, carry the 1, 3, carry the 1, 2.31 million. Divide that by 2, and we get 1 point, how's my math off the top of my head? 155 mil. So that's what our new equalization number is going to be. So this person over here now has to make an equalization payment of 5. So that's a 0, 2, it's a 9, 1, $190,000. And there you go. Now, that said, there's one more thing we have not factored in this calculation, and that's the contents of the house. Now, again, you can nickel and dime and go through every item in your house and try and set a value at it, which would be an ungodly stressful exercise, or you can ballpark it. Now, what most people do is they'll ballpark the number based on, what's in the house, and what the person leaving will say is, you know what, just you keep it all. I just want this and this and this, which is, personal and emotional to me, and you can keep the rest and I'll start fresh, right? Also, if you've got children, it's a nice way to keep things, somewhat consistent for them, right? Because the family home doesn't change that much. It's not like this big upheaval. They don't go down into the basement and see the couches are gone, the TV is gone, the bookshelves are gone, everything's gone, and it becomes a stressful point, right? So my advice would be figure out a number and then just equalize it. So let's say, for example, this couple had, I don't know, $100,000 worth of stuff in their house. Just picking a number. All right, well, this person's gonna add an additional $50,000 to the equalization payment, and now they're square. So now this person over here has gotten their fair share. This person over here got to keep their business intact, the house, and this person over here gets a bit of a fresh start. The math isn't difficult, and remember, when it comes down to it at the end of the day, the relationship is over, and if it's over, just put everything into a big pile, figure out who wants what, and be done with it. Because it can be a very stressful thing when people start bickering and fighting over things like teacups and, magazine collections and, shoes, or, I don't know why you'd fight over shoes, but you get my point, right? So if you have any more questions, comment down below. We'll be happy to answer them. I understand that this is a stressful situation. Our goal is to make the math easy and understand that there are some extra steps that you need, like we did with the sale of the cottage and factoring the tax and then lowering that number from 1.2 down, okay? So if you've got any questions, like I said, comment down below. You've been Behind the Vault. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I know this can be a stressful topic, but again, if you've got questions, like and comment below. We'll get to you. And don't forget to subscribe. Oh, and here's our next video.